Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Department Podcast. I am Stephen Bologna, joined alongside Joe Monroig and Justin Valentovic. This is a very special episode for us. It's the day after Christmas when we are recording this. We're a couple days away from New Year's, and New Year's means college football playoff. And we have a lot to get to today. We're going to be doing our predictions for the national championship. We're going to talk about the highly criticized college football committee and see if they got their top four correct. Some blasphemy about Ohio State and Notre Dame. So there's a lot to get to. But first off, how was your holiday, gentlemen?
Good. I got to stay home with just the immediate family, which, quite frankly, is very nice. Gonna hate next year when I have to interact with the rest of my family, but that's fine. Other than that, it was good.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. I mean, I was pretty happy I got off from work, working my butt off. But it was great to enjoy my time with family. So it was really fun.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Joe Monroig, another friend of ours from college, just like all the guests we have here. Monroy's a huge LSU fan. Last year, not this year, though.
Wow, yeah.
Bandwagon, but,
I'm not a bandwagon. No, I'm not.
We'll have to see. But before I get into anything, there was some breaking news this morning in college football. Very sad story. Pac-12 Freshman of the Year from the Utah Utes, running back Ty Jordan, passed away at the age of 19. I believe he was shot was the official report.
Yeah, it said it was an accidental shooting. So maybe he was cleaning a gun and it went off and it unfortunately killed him. Or just, it said it was potentially accidental, but, there's not too many details. But regardless, it's absolutely tragic and sad just because of how young he is. And like you said, he was actually a pretty good player too. And, that's nothing more than that's, it's good, but it's not the most important part of it. It's just he's how young he is at 19, considering, I'm 23 now and a kid's 4 years younger passed away is terrible.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Condolences to the family. It's just a terrible tragedy that happened. That's just, one of those freak accidents that happen. And like I say, there's not enough detail out there yet, but hopefully whatever comes out, hopefully the truth comes out, enough evidence comes out to see what really happens. But like I said, hopefully condolences to the family and also to the Utah organization. Such a young, talented player lost.
Yeah, and it's rare that you see a freshman come into college football at the level that Utah plays. I mean, Pac-12 it's a Power 5 conference, and if you see a freshman make that much of an impact, you know that he's going to have a future, not only in college, maybe even at the professional level. So to see this, it's just really heartbreaking. And again, thoughts and prayers with the Jordan family. But it's the holiday season, and New Year's Eve is 5 days away. New Year's Day, excuse me. And we have our long-awaited college football rankings officially. Alabama is your number 1 seed, followed by Clemson as the number 2 seed. Ohio State is the number 3, and the very opinion-based number 4, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, getting into the final spot ahead of Texas A&M. Do we agree with these rankings?
I have no love lost for Notre Dame.
I don't either.
I'd be the first one that they're the equivalent of, if anyone, if you watch the podcast or if you're in a group chat with me, I don't like the New York Yankees. And my just annoyance and just no love lost for Notre Dame it's close to the Yankees. They get everything handed to them and they get kind of graded on a curve because they're Notre Dame. And that's why they're still in the playoffs, if we're being quite honest, because they lost to Clemson in the ACC championship game and they only dropped to 4. So that's kind of dumb, a lot, but they're only there for namesake. But also looking at the 4 teams since the college playoffs, was put into place, 5-6 years ago at this point, a while.
Yeah,
this is probably top to bottom the most marketable playoff of all 4 teams.
Yeah,
I definitely agree. COVID played a really big role, especially with Notre Dame. We go, there's so many arguments we can make. We all disagree. We all agree. There's just so many arguments you can make about this whole top Power 4 rankings. And then you have the argument where, we should expand to 6 teams, blah, 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 this and that because of other conferences. The conversation can go on and on for all we know.
Yeah, and it's never going to be perfect. Even if you expand to 6 teams, you're still going to get, the team that shouldn't be in there. So just expanding won't fix the problem; it might just make it worse. But Notre Dame of all teams, just when they were losing to Clemson, I joked with my father, who hates them, more than I do, and I'm like, "Oh, watch them only drop to 4." And lo and behold, they literally only dropped to 4. So the fact that you lose your conference championship game and you're still in the playoffs is beyond me.
And this is a Notre Dame team. Obviously, you could argue that they did beat Clemson at the time when Clemson was number 1, but you have to realize that Trevor Lawrence is not playing in this game. They went to overtime and they barely escaped with a victory with a true freshman at quarterback for Clemson. I don't think Notre Dame should have gotten in. It's going to be a 42-0 loss probably.
Yeah, it's going to look like
Alabama.
when Notre Dame was in the finals in the championship game, with the Manti Te'o team. Like, it's going to be an absolute rout. Like, it's not going to be a close game. It's set up to be Clemson, Alabama, 7 at this point.
And it's been so many years in a row where Notre Dame just has a good regular season, gets destroyed in the playoff, and it's a repeat process. But at the same time, if fans want to argue Ohio State at number 3, I think that's a very interesting argument because you can say they only played 6 games, At the same time, it's not their fault that they're only playing 6 games.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Exactly, you're right. So COVID played a big part in it. So cancellation of games happened. So you have other teams complain. Like I said, Dabo Swinney came out and complained right away about how, they only played 6 games. Yeah, I mean, they would have played the same amount of games you have if, COVID didn't cancel a lot of the games.
Yeah.
But you can also make the argument as well, Ohio State, they won their Big Ten championship game. They beat the ranked teams that were ranked in their schedule. Like I said, the game against Indiana was a close one, but they still won against when Indiana was ranked high at the time. They were ranked, I believe, 6 or 5 during the time they played against Indiana. So Ohio State, like I said, the argument there, does Ohio State belong at number 3? It depends. It depends what side you want to view at, but they won their Big Ten championship game, right? They won out, and it all comes down to really COVID, because the COVID just canceled so many games. So
and it was just the Big Ten. They by going back on their word of we're not going to play. We're going to play in the spring, then get bullied in by the president to go play, and then they start later. It was just a whole cluster disaster of what was going on. So the Big Ten kind of put them in this spot, but at the same time, it's like you can't blame them for playing what they could play at the same time.
You can't, and
because if it was the opposite for Clemson, I'm sure Dabo Swinney would be like, "Oh, we played the most we can. It's out of our control."
Exactly. The same thing would have been if it was flip flop.
What does it matter? They're gonna blow them out anyway. Like Ohio State, they're a good team, and Fields is a good quarterback. But the Northwestern game,
that was embarrassing.
It exposed him a lot. I'm sure later on in the draft, when we cover the draft, we'll talk about it. But he was exposed. He didn't look as good as everyone thought he was going to be. And he kind of looked like the typical Ohio State quarterback at this point where it doesn't translate.
And look at the history of Ohio State quarterbacks. JT Barrett, Braxton Miller, those guys.
Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, obviously he's only been in the league.
Cardell Jones.
Cardell Jones. Look at the Ohio State quarterback history. Not a lot.
Terrell Pryor.
Not a lot of
Herb Street. None of them ever translate to the NFL.
Doesn't play quarterback anymore. Terrell Pryor doesn't play quarterback anymore.
Terrell Pryor doesn't play football anymore.
But you mentioned Northwestern game. Northwestern basically was controlling that game for 3 whole quarters.
Yeah.
But obviously Justin Fields, that Ohio State team, credits to Ryan Day. They come back and win it. But yeah, Justin, you're right. They really got exposed. So that Clemson team, the way how they've been playing, especially with Trevor Lawrence coming back, it just shows how much of a different team Clemson is when Trevor Lawrence is on the field.
I'm not even going to attempt to say the backup's name because oh boy, that's worse than Tua's last name.
Let's just say he's a 5-star quarterback.
Yeah,
it's DJ Uiagalelei.
There you go.
Cool.
5-star quarterback. He's a freshman, I believe.
He was good.
No, he's very good.
He's the heir to Trevor Lawrence.
Look at that.
Oh, he absolutely will be. But it's just set up the way the playoffs are. It's Notre Dame, Ohio State got in, but it's you're just lambs to the slaughter against against Alabama and Clemson. If there is going to be an upset, it would be Ohio State over Clemson. I don't see Notre Dame at all getting a shot against Alabama.
I don't think Ian Brooks is going to have a great game against Alabama defense. No way.
I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't think anyone is taking down Alabama, but that's a conversation for later in the pod.
You think it's their
I think they're too dominant.
He's so good.
Mac Jones is
Devontae Smith.
It's amazing how Alabama went from, AJ McCarron, who good quarterback, but but it was always run first. The quarterbacks are just glorified game managers. Yeah. But then with Jalen Hurts to Tua and now to Mac Jones, we're seeing them where Nick Saban's like actually letting them throw, and they're good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
All three of them were literally on the same team together.
Yeah, that's a great quarterback room.
It is. Yeah, and you mentioned, since y'all play with each other, they're probably all learning from each other as well, and they all bring to the table different playing abilities.
And it also helps that all of them have played Clemson in like every championship game.
Yeah.
Basically every year, really, except
I think it's interesting that we are seeing a potential number 1 pick versus number 2 pick in this playoff with Lawrence and Fields. Like you said, Justin Fields has not looked good at all these past couple games, so his draft stock might be taking a hit.
And same thing with Mac Jones. This could actually bump up his stock.
Yeah. I think the thing that hurts Mac Jones is that he is a senior. He's a little bit more of age, a little older. But at the same time, we saw Joe Burrow. Exactly. Yeah. But again, this is going to be an interesting playoff. I think Notre Dame doesn't even – I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even score a point against Alabama. I know it's probably an exaggeration.
Was it Oklahoma, Ohio State a few years ago where they just got absolutely routed? Or am I just thinking of something? Like, I don't know. But it's not good. Alabama's going to steamroll Notre Dame, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it because they're the one team who shouldn't be there. Every single year they're a pretender. They're always overhyped. They're a glorified Michigan football team.
You talking about the Sooners?
No, Notre Dame.
Yeah, they are. I agree.
Notre Dame's glorified Michigan.
Brian Kelly can't win the big games. It just shows on his record. No. Since 2016, Brian Kelly's record, I believe, is 36 and 6 or something like that. And out of those 6 games that he lost, majority of them have been either bowl games or big games that are reported that they lost. So I don't know what the problem is with Notre Dame that they can't win the big games. Not sure why they just shut down.
It's just coaching, honestly.
Is that game the Rose Bowl game?
Yeah, that's the Rose Bowl that's going to be in Dallas.
Did you see that Kelly was like,
we're not playing.
I'll pull my team out if families aren't allowed. It's like, dude, really? It's like, come on. I get it, but
yeah.
I mean, he's just avoiding the inevitable.
Those kids work their butt off. You're gonna pull them out now.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if like you got into like, the Michaels Roscommon House Bowl, and then you bailed out on that one. But it's like you're in the playoffs, really?
Yeah.
Like you just sound like an idiot. It took Notre Dame how long to get back to like anywhere close to a championship, and then you're gonna pull out. Obviously COVID is terrible, but it's like, really, you're getting an opportunity in all these circumstances to play, and that is what you would really like. Shut up.
How do the kids feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They literally played this whole season to work their way, still somehow get into 4th ranking and take them out. Like what? So all that hard work basically goes for nothing. All their sacrifice, all the going through the COVID testing, all that stuff throughout this whole season, like basically for a waste. What was the point of it?
Yeah, and the team that arguably could have been number 4 was Texas A&M. They only lost 1 game in the season, and that was to Alabama. They did beat a number 4 ranked Florida team at the time handsomely. And I'm with Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. I think they should have got the 4 spot. It is the SEC, and they faced much harder opponents. They had to go through Alabama, and I think it would have just made for a much better matchup.
You're the best division.
It would have been. It would have actually been a good game.
Yeah.
But once again, it's just Notre Dame getting graded on a curve, and this is really the first time A&M's been relevant since like Mansell.
Literally,
right?
Yeah, or even I guess a little bit of Prescott, not really, but like you said, Manziel was more.
That was the height of their popularity and their power.
Definitely. It was either that or the 7 overtime win against LSU, Joe.
Don't remind me. Got that whole game to watch. It was
great game.
Great game, but credit to AM for it too.
So, my question to you now is, who wins it all? I'm assuming it's between Clemson and Alabama.
Yeah,
that's my favorite as well.
Like I said before, Ohio State, good team, but they showed a lot more in the Northwestern game that was more damning to them. So I don't hold much stock in them. And Notre Dame, I'm never going to support. So it's going to be Alabama, Clemson again, which I'm fine with. But I think at the end of the day, it's still going to be Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, my final choice would definitely be Bama versus Clemson. But when Trevor Lawrence is on the field, he's just that whole Clemson team is different. The defense plays different. The offense just conducted differently. Dabo Swinney's a great coach, but when you have a quarterback who's NFL ready to play on Sundays, who has the deep ball accuracy, who could be a dual threat, RPO, run the ball off his legs. Like at the first meeting against Notre Dame and Clemson, we saw, like I said, they went triple overtime, I believe, or double overtime. But when that second meeting, the ACC championship game, that was just a completely Clemson team against Notre Dame. Notre Dame basically just, crapped the bed, really. It's amazing how that Clemson team could just dominate with a guy like Trevor Lawrence on it, embarrassing that Notre Dame defense. But at the end of the day, that Alabama team every year, there's no difference. We all know their presence. We all know their identity. They're just one of those teams every year that's like one of a kind, the best athletes based in the world.
Yeah.
Really think about it.
And as good of a coach that Dabo is, Nick Saban's had his number for a while. Even though Dabo did beat him like once or twice in the championship.
Deshaun Watson, that was it.
Nick Saban is still such a better coach. He's the greatest college coach of all time, honestly. He's not going to lose.
I think so. My case for Ohio State is that they lost to Clemson last year, and they lose Jeff Okudah, they lose Chase Young, and I don't think that defense is even close to where it was last year. And I'm going to give the edge to Trevor Lawrence on that one. Now, when it comes to a Trevor Lawrence versus Alabama team, that's interesting because we saw Florida and Kyle Trask put up 46 points on the Alabama defense. Now you take an even better offense, an even better quarterback, an even better receiving crew and running back crew against Alabama's defense. I think we're in store for one of the best national championship games in recent memory, maybe even of all time. But I think when you look at Alabama and them having 3 of the 5 Heisman finalists on their offense alone, I think that firepower is too much for Trevor Lawrence to keep up with. And that's not his fault either. It's just that I don't think the Clemson defense is going to be able to hold them.
A lot of the weapons, too, from Clemson, like the only holdover of significant, it's ETN. And
ETN is dominant.
Great running back, but it's like you're not going to beat Alabama with just Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got to come out and play, basically. It's all hands on deck, really.
Yeah.
And Alabama this year, recruiting-wise, got the most 5-star recruits as well, as from where it sits.
Yeah, Alabama's always going to be loaded. Like, they're always going to have the superior talent. It all comes down to just being able to take advantage of it. Yeah. But Mac Jones has just been playing at another level, since he is, the Heisman finalist, we'll get into. But it's just every year they're just so much better than everybody else. And even in years when it's a down year for Alabama, when they're like 3, they're still so good.
Yeah. And Justin, you bring up the Heisman finalists. There are 4 of them. It's Devonta Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama, is actually currently the favorite, followed by Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, and Kyle Trask of Florida. Who's your winner, in your opinion?
I mean, it'd be really good, nice to see, a wide receiver win it. But I still think it's going to be a quarterback, and it'll probably be Mac Jones, just because Trevor Lawrence did miss some time due to COVID, and I feel like that'll hurt him a little bit. And Trask, great year, undeniable. You could have made a case for Florida to get in the playoffs, but they didn't. So that'll kind of just hold him back. So I think it'll be either Smith or Mac Jones.
I guess Mac Jones really great quarterback this year. I know usually the Heisman Trophy, it's really more of a running back quarterback award.
Yeah, when was the last time a receiver won it?
It's 1997.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Was that Howard?
I thought it was Valentovic.
No.
Charles Woodson was the last non-quarterback running back player to win the Heisman. And guess who was number 2 behind him in voting? Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
It'll be great to see Devontae Smith win. I really hope he wins. I mean, listen, guys just been racking it up. Receptions, 98 receptions, 1,511 yards. He's averaging 15.4 after a catch. Touchdowns, he's got 17 touchdowns this season. Like those receiver numbers are probably not all number 1 leading in the country. You just can't make that up.
I did a little bit of research, and the last wide receiver to straight up win it was Desmond Howard in 1991. So 29 years we're going on. So 30 years by the time the thing is actually presented.
My issue with Devontae Smith is, yes, he is an incredible receiver, but who's the one throwing him the ball and making him that incredible?
You're making the same argument as to why wide receivers never win MVP.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I think Mac Jones is having an incredible season. and this is an Alabama team that was kind of doubted coming into the year. Oh, they lose Tua, they're gonna have to start Mac Jones, and I think the numbers he's put up is they're Heisman worthy.
They are.
We've seen receivers put up better numbers than this and not get any recollection or credit for it, and I think that's wrong. But I think when do they announce the award?
It is January 5th, so
The night before
a week from Tuesday.
Yeah.
The night before the national championship game. So I think that these obviously the next game is going to really whichever one out of
whoever
Jones
looks better in the but I feel like it's already decided though, right? Like aren't the votes cast?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Voting works for the Heisman, but I mean maybe after the first round of playoffs of the college, maybe we'll see. Maybe different will change. Maybe
I know Tim Tebow voted for Mac Jones because he was saying that all over ESPN because they love to roll him out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Bologna. But we can make the argument as well with that as well.
Yeah.
But Mac Jones though, his numbers this season, it's just high, like 250 CMP, 327 attempts, 76.5 completion percentage, 3,739 yards. His average is 11.4, 32 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. And those are really good stat numbers right there for a Heisman finalist right there.
Didn't Teo win the Heisman?
No, he was a finalist.
He was a final.
He lost to did he lose to Manziel?
His girlfriend he lost to.
Well, can't lose what you never had.
There you go. Oh my God.
Man, I remember that story came out. It was like, what the hell?
It really ruined his career.
Wasn't he? Yeah, he was a Saint for a while.
Yeah, that's kind of where he was. He went to the Chargers first, and then he was a Saint.
By Chargers, yeah.
Yeah, he was a joke with the Chargers.
I should have been a Colt, for being honest.
No.
In the league anymore.
Yeah, no, he's been gone for a while, I
He's
think.
been gone.
Oh.
To be honest, I really thought he was gonna have a great career as a linebacker. I mean, he was literally.
Oh no, he's a Chicago Bear.
Oh, he was literally the best linebacker in the country.
Yeah,
He was insane.
When is he since? Oh boy, Nick Foles and Manti Te'o, what a team!
oh baby,
they got going in Chicago. Boy,
well,
he sucks.
I know. Speaking of sucking, got NFL on right now, Justin. Buccaneers up 34-0 on the Lions at half.
I mean, listen, man, Stafford's hurt. What are you gonna do?
That poor guy gets the hell beat out of him every day.
The Lions had 54 yards of offense in the first half.
Oh, that's painful.
Antonio Brown had 55 receiving yards. So it's a bad day for a Lions fan. But listen, I hope everyone here had a good holiday. We're going to be back. We're going to take a little bit of a break from episodes. Got the holiday season still continuing until New Year's. Make sure to follow us on all our socials at Department_Pod. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Joe Monroig, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your college football insight. Justin, it's going to be a stressful week with the Colts and Clemson.
They're both going to lose. Colts don't have either of their tackles, so TJ Watt's going to have a field day on Sunday.
I don't know. We'll see.
They have Chaz Green and LaRaven Clark starting.
Okay.
We're screwed.
I'll trade you Morgan Moses for Quentin Nelson.
They might play Q at left tackle. I'm not even kidding.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to see if the Colts can take down the Steelers, who have been struggling. Joe Monroig, hopefully the Giants miss the playoffs, but that's nonetheless.
Football feel like pretty good. I mean, especially for Alex Smith.
Gotta win this week and they're in, baby.
Yeah, everyone controls your own destiny. So, but I think the Washington football team is definitely going to get this division this year. The way how the rest of the season is playing out right now. So,
we'll have to wait and see. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great New Year's Day, and we'll see you next time.